Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again, another one. Nice little quick one. Question of the week. I've been going through a bunch of them there, and what I've noticed is there's a couple old videos of mine that are just constantly getting responses to. One is the repairing of a recorder panel on a car, and a lot of questions on it, and repairing panels from the inside out. Right, build them from the outside in, repair them, and weld them from the inside out. I've done that video over a year ago, and it's well over 100,000 views on it now, and it's amazing that there's been a lot of people still responding on it. But what I'm noticing, I have a lot of new people on this channel, and one thing I notice, I keep coming back with the simple questions over and over again. What size metal do you use? What size MIG wire? What kind of gas? Is that flux core? That type of stuff. So we're going to go over the basics here today. Like, I don't use flux core. It turns around. I found it's really hot, very hard to work with sheet metal. Now you can work with it. There's a number of guys out there that have used it and are using it and finding it a lot better, enjoy it better and stuff like that. A lot of it's cheaper, that type of stuff. Me myself, no. I prefer, using a CO2 gas. I haven't got to use the argon mix. All I use is just straight CO2, and I use 023 wire. Which is 6mm wire, I think it is. Yes, 6mm? Yeah, 6mm. Yeah, 6mm wire, or 0.06mm, something like that. Anyway, 023 wire. That's all you got to be worried about. That's all I use for all my projects, okay? I don't change things up. I don't do things different. As for the metal, doesn't matter if the car is 22 gauge, if it's 20 gauge, if it's, 16 gauge, whatever it is, or 18 gauge, sorry. I use the same size metal on all of it. I use 18 gauge metal. The reason why I use 18 gauge metal is because it can hold heat a lot better. It turns around, it's a lot better for the grinding purposes, because when you got a vehicle that's got 24 gauge metal in it, and you want to weld a patch in it, and you weld a patch in it, and then you got to grind off the welds and all that type of stuff. If you're starting off with 24 gauge metal, you're not left with a lot, okay? So you start with heavier gauge metal, 18 gauge, and you turn around, and when it comes time to grind it, you got room to grind it. I always grind from my 18 gauge to whatever the other panel is, 22, 24. Across to here behind me, that's like 24 gauge metal, and that is full of 18 gauge, okay? I just find it a lot easier. It helps to control the heat, it helps control warpage. There's a number of reasons for that, especially when you're doing the cotton butt. So that's the reason for that. I very rarely use any other size metals. It's usually always been 18 gauge. And what metals do I use? I haven't bought a sheet of steel in, I'd say, 10 years. All I've been using is recycled metal. A lot of the shelving. Shelving is 18 gauge. A lot of the shelvings that you buy in cabinets and stuff like that. And every now and again, I come across an abundance of it, and I just pick it up very cheap, and I just put it aside, and I got it for whenever I wants to have it. And I have metal here that I got probably 8-9 years ago, and I still have something left here that I'm using. And I just find it a lot better. A sheet of steel is not cheap these days, and a lot of times when you go out and you buy a sheet of steel, it's been sat in the warehouse for a while and it's rusty. The stuff that I use has like a powder coating on it, has to be grinded off and all that type of stuff, so I use that a lot. It's just something I got into because I do so much of it, and I repair stuff that most people won't repair. You got to find ways to save money. Going out and buying a 4x8 sheet of steel today, I don't know how much it is. The last time I bought a sheet of steel, it was $50. Okay, a 4x8 sheet of steel, and that was, I'm not mistaken, that was maybe 20 gauge. Yeah, 20 gauge was what it was. So it was still thin, right? So that's the whole thing with it, and that's the reason why I used it, that metal, is because of I have so much here. Okay. Nobody have asked me about the arc captain. Okay, I done a video on this a while back talking about this is a welder that they sent me, and I start using. I had my welder replaced now. This is all I use. Okay, I'm very pleased with it. I'm happy with how the machine works. The only drawback I got is that I haven't gotten used to remembering what numbers I'm using for each type of metal. I got to write them down. I'm so used to just a simple little dial. One is 10 degrees, and the other one's 10 o'clock, the other one's 4 o'clock, big thing. Because that's all I've ever been used to. This one here, I got to remember that one is 125, the other one's 55, that type of thing. Hard to remember, so I'm just going to have to write them all down. Right? But I have my Miller put away. This year has some characteristics about it that I like. I'm only still MIG welding with it. I have nothing else with the welder. All I do is MIGs. 023 wire, CO2 gas. That's all I'm using now. Lottie V asked me how I make it out with it, and I find it great. I'm going to continue using it and see how I make out with it, and if I start running into any troubles. As of now, I'm very pleased with it. I find it great for welding thin metal. Crusty behind me, it blew me away when I went and welded two pieces together in the video. Everything was fine on it, and it was amazing. So, good reviews on that so far. One of the things I've been asked many times, what am I grinding with? Okay, it's a 24 grit grinding pad. Okay, this goes on an ear sander. I prefer this here. I got more control over the speed. I do not use flat wheels. Okay, a lot of people love them, and I find you really got to spend good money on a good flat wheel for it to last. I keep joking around saying that flat wheels is good for polishing chrome. Okay, I can't get enough cut on them. This is something I got into as a necessity when I was in the trade. I was a bodyman for over 25 years, and in the trade, I've done a lot of heavy repairs, and I wanted to get material off the car fast. This is what I used. Okay, it does not tear the metal up as bad and like thin it out as much as what people think it does. I've done tests on that, and I'm not grinding off a lot. It just looks rough looking. Okay, I do it that way because I got filler work that got to be done after the fact anyway. So I just soon had the metal done with that. As for my cutoff wheels, okay, I don't use nothing fancy. I buy these Maximums, okay. They are 3/64 thick. That's all I've ever used. They're extremely cheap. I pay less than $1 each for these. Packet 50, I think, sometimes goes on for like $30 or something Canadian Tire. Usually around here, these will run you $2-3 each. A good quality one. They probably last you longer, but I find when you start using them, you just get used to it. I have no issues with them. That's all I use. But that's the thickness of them, 3/64, and that's the cutting wheel that I use on the electric grinder. Few people asked about this grinder. This attachment I made. They talked about what I should have done was just drill this out, okay? The problem you got if you look down inside there, it's hard to see on the camera, but all it is, this is a plastic piece here, and there's a nut that's actually molded into the plastic. And the easiest way to see it, it seems like it's probably like a 9/16 size nut. It's a metric nut bolt or whatever it is, but that's about the size of it. So if you try to drill that out to 5/8, you're going to have nothing there. And I'd say for the heat that you add to it, you'll melt the plastic around it. And that's the reason why I went the route that I did, welding all this together to make it. And make it work. Works great. I've actually used it a couple times already. A couple good points were brought up to me. Some talked about the size that they're made for, and I've never seen them grinders. It must be a very small grinder with a smaller nut on the end of it. All the grinders I got here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grinders here, and all of them got the same size nut as this one here, right? And some pointed out the whole point of that. But what some pointed out is the whole point that the speed of these will actually heat up this pad. Good point. So you got to be very careful with it when you're grinding with it, that you're cleaning stuff off, that you're not really putting the heat into it. I've run into that years ago with the large 24s. Fellas will put a lot of heat in them, and you'll end up destroying the pad, and the pad will explode and all that type of stuff. And fellas have talked about that. A lot of that is you're overworking the pad. The sandpaper does the work, not the grinder, okay? So when you're grinding something off, let the grinder do the work, or let the sandpaper itself do the work. If the sandpaper is not taking it off, adding pressure to it, it's not going to make it any better. You're just going to damage the machine. You're going to wear the bearings out in these here. So your best bet is just let the sandpaper do the work. When it gets wore out, replace the sandpaper. Simple as that. And it's funny, though. I had everybody seen this in the video. I have a video on this here, okay? Here's the video here on this here. I made this up. I just sat around the garage one day, fooling around with this steel, and I come up with that, and it was just this 18 gauge shelving that I've always used. Right? So, yeah, there's an actual video on this, and you want to know, right? Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. There's a lot of new people here, and thanks for you guys for subscribing to the channel and sticking around and going through my video list and have a look at them. I greatly appreciate it. Pop over to Fitzy'sFabrications.com and check out our merchandise. I got a lot of stuff over, hats, shirts, t-shirts, stickers. I got all that type of stuff over, hoodies. All that's over there, so you want to pop over there, check that out. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time.